Hi guys! Today I am going to tell some information about video game Garten of Banban. I mean all the story. So, let's start. Long before Banban's kindergarten was founded, there was a smaller kindergarten that we'll refer to as Old Kindergarten. The Old Kindergarten had 6 mascots: Tamataki, Shamataki, Bitter Jiggle, Sulfius, Syringan, and Kiddosaurus. The Old Kindergarten was running smoothly until some unknown incident occurred, which caused it to burn down, burning the people inside along with the mascots, or so they thought. One of the children that died was a child named Josh. The parents of Josh, who was one of the kids who died in the Old Kindergarten fire, powered by grief, they begin searching for ways to bring their child back from the dead. The 2 parents start a new kindergarten on top of the smoldered, decaying remains of the Old Kindergarten. They started as a front for their illegal science experiments that have the main goal of bringing their child Josh back to life. They begin hiring scientists and employees, not telling them the true goal of the experiment. Dr. Uthman Adam was hired by Banban's kindergarten to be the head of creating the living mascots. They first tested mammalian blood circulatory systems in case 2-6, where they were left with no results. The first of the available case update reports was created on Gavanium, and was the second update is available where the document says that the first Gavanium infused mascot moved an arm like its artificial nervous system had worked for a split second, which shows their first bit of progress in creating life. The main mascot, Banban, was one of the first mascots to be created, referred to as K6. The workers of Banban's kindergarten transferred his circulatory system to Gavanium instead of the much less capable mammalian systems. K6 coming to life resulted in him following the behavior of other cases who had human genome donors, which is them remembering many memories that belonged to the original human donor. In this case, the memories of Uthman Adam, as he was the donor. Due to the human genome existing within K6, he has been observed eating and drinking despite him not needing to, strangely, like all of the previous cases that are alive. He described a constant pain inside of him that cannot be completely explained. K6 is capable of many other things, such as fluent speech, high intelligence similar to his donor, and, because of his primary gene being human, he is docile and cooperative yet incredibly confused by his lab experiments. Banban sees himself as a human, specifically as Uthman Adam, who is Banban's human genome donor. He describes an immense feeling of pain in his stomach for the first time. And the kindergarten also begins planning a meeting between Uthman Adam and Banban. The meeting between Uthman Adam and Banban takes place. During the meeting, Banban first treated Uthman Adam like any other stranger they've met by shaking hands, even though Banban thinks he is Uthman Adam. Uthman Adam then began explaining that they were the original genome donor for Banban. Uthman then tried to start explaining some of the science behind Gavanium procedures. But while he was talking, Banban suddenly became extremely angry and tried to attack the doctor, but was stopped by security. Uthman Adam suffered minor injuries and Banban was placed in solitary confinement. Banban goes insane while sitting in a corner repeating the words Gavanium, pancreas, Weaverly, and Uthman. Banban repeatedly asks to meet with Dr. Weaverly Mason. All of his attempts are denied. This urge could be due to his human genome donor's unknown relation with Dr. Weaverly Mason. Banban thinks he is Dr. Uthman Adam. Banbalina is created to help with the Banban situation. Originally, Banbalina acted identical to Banban prior to his introduction to Uthman Adam. And because of that situation with Banban, Banbalina would not meet her human genome donor. Banbalina was placed into Banban's room where he was crying in the corner. Banbalina is asked to walk closer to Banban, who starts looking up at her. He then rushes at her, hugging her, then he goes back to the corner. Banbalina is instructed to leave the room. After Banbalina met Banban, she became more and more uncooperative every day. Sheriff Toadster is created using the genomes of a human donor and a frog donor. He only acts like a simple toad, hopping and rebooting around. In order to solve the Banban problem, Banban is injected with a new Gavanium solution that limits his intelligence guys, today I am going to tell you some information about video game Garten of Banban. Let's go in order to solve the Banban problem. Banban is injected with a new Gavanium solution that limits his intelligence and other brain activity, but this creates even more problems. At first it seems like the solution worked, but Banban first begins shaking in extreme pain coming from their stomach, and eventually the scientists realize what they have done, which is unintentionally creating Banban's hellish form. Stinger Flynn is created and starts to show small amounts of brain activity much quicker than other cases. Stinger Flynn started to show signs of activity in day 1, while others took multiple weeks. Case update reports 1. Stinger Flynn is injected with an enhanced Gavanium solution which makes Stinger Flynn start to act with intelligence, including human speech, instead of acting like a simple mindless jellyfish. But after an altered Gavanium solution similar to the altered Gavanium solution applied to Sheriff Toadster, he is able to learn to master walking on 2 legs, ditch his nocturnal sleeping cycle, and completely stop mimicking toads. Case 10. Opila Bird was created with the goal of creating a monster that displays motherly love. Case uses the Phenicopterus roseus flamingo genome as well as the Struthiocamelus ostrich genome. Opila Bird underwent genetic modifications to give her motherly love. She began being extremely aggressive towards humans, except children, which has to do with Opila Bird's love for her chicks. Opila Bird escaped from containment and saw and heard her children being harmed. This caused her to become extremely angry and her eyes became bloodshot. The kindergarten informs Uthman Adam that they have lowered the amount of active case from 10 to 6 because they do not have enough money to use the amounts of Gavanium he was wasting on experiments, like case 12 and all of its sub-cases. This case is a failure because almost all of these monsters never came to life. They also inform him to get ready for Bring a Friend Day. Weaverly Mason writes a letter to Uthman Adam, saying that she is sorry that the kindergarten needs to drop some of these cases. She informs Uthman Adam that he needs to keep Zolphius a secret, and that they should drop Nab Nab, the Sheriff Toadster, and Slow Celine. Nab Nab was too creepy. Sheriff Toadster's only purpose was to stop criminals, which there were none, and Slow Celine because the hyperactive children wouldn't like her. She ends the message with a humble cheer up. Weaverly Mason understands she and Uthman Adam must destroy the kindergarten and leave it behind. Taking the likely collapse of the ball pit as an opportunity, she allows the monsters to escape on Bring a Friend Day. They respond saying, "You are my savior. My friends and I will soon escape from our prison, and there will be chaos. Get out of this place while you still can, and this is your only warning." After doing this, she prepares a plan to flee to Spain with Uthman Adam. Uthman Adam gets a dreadful note from Weaverly Mason, saying that they have reviewed the ball pit's architecture and found that it's a miracle that it hadn't collapsed yet. It can't support the children that are enrolled in the kindergarten, and they're going to have double that on Bring a Friend Day. She then writes that something very bad is going to happen, and they need to get out of here. She then says that she has a plan for tomorrow Bring a Friend Day, and that he just needs to get ready and pack his bags. It was planned that all cases would be present in Bring a Friend Day, but they were running late, and the only case ready for presentation was case 100 to Captain Fiddles, and case 13 Stinger Flynn. All cases ready for presentation were brought to the outer sector to be presented to all the children, their friends, the workers, and the company owners. The case acted fine and nice. Uthman Adam and Weaverly Mason were inside of the facility during the event, but planned to sneak out and board a flight to Madrid, Spain, as they knew that something bad was most likely going to happen with the ball pit likely to collapse under the extremely large weight of the many children inside of it sooner than expected. The ball pit collapsed under the weight, killing the children in the ball pit and setting off a chain reaction that would destroy the facility. Instantly, Zolphius awakened in the abyss. Banban transformed into his hellish form, and the animalistic instincts of the rest of the mascots were triggered, causing them to break out of their cells and to go on a murderous rampage after the children, workers, and parents. It also triggered something evil to escape deep on level -4 of the kindergarten. One worker left on floor -4 in the employee training sector had stated on a piece of paper that they had heard screams and cries from above and had began to have horrible monsters in his head, such as the unnamed marionette. Queen Bouncelia and Sheriff Toadster also hear the screams from above. Sheriff Toadster witnesses some of the chaos above and begins to believe his citizens, aka the Banban Gang, are now old friends which have gone mad, meaning they are now dirty criminals. Stinger Flynn didn't participate in the rampage, but took the time to plan something. He instead took the children and some of the important workers, such as Weaverly Mason. But it is unknown if Uthman Adam was kidnapped as well, or if he was murdered. Stinger Flynn even saved children from the other monsters just so he could kidnap them. We know this from an unknown kid writing the nice jellyfish saved us from the big bird and the evil red man. We are going to the jellyfish's home. The same unknown child also wrote before that I'm hiding in a room but I have to fight the monster with the drawing of O Pillar Bird attacking them. This was the beginning of the end of the facility. During Bring a Friend Day, a surgery was taking place in the arboreal aquatic sector. The surgery was taking place on Nabnalina's lifeless body. They had completed everything except the Gavanium injections. But before they could complete the final steps to bring Nabnalina to life, they hear screams coming from above. Nab begins to break out of his containment, causing the doctors to abort the surgery. They eventually suffered an unknown fate. Stinger Flynn first takes the children and workers hiding in the purple room. Then the workers...
Hi guys, today I am going to tell you some information about video game Garten of Banban. I mean the story. Stinger Flynn first takes the children and workers hiding in the purple room, then the workers hiding in the break room. He then holds them temporarily in the 3 cafeteria, even letting them play with crayons. One of them had been drawing pants on Captain Fiddles. At some point, the children either escape or are taken by something else. Many workers flee the outer sector, scattering throughout the facility. One worker barricaded themselves in the entrance of the communications sector, and suffered constant attacks from Nab, causing them to lose their sanity, writing on a piece of paper "The spider is real" over and over again. They banged their heads on walls, floors and tables trying to get rid of their thoughts. They ended up killing themselves in the process. A group of workers were trapped in one of the corners in the medical sector, fighting off an attack by Captain Fiddles and his crew. Shortly after, they were overwhelmed and were killed. The Gavanium inside of the Captain Fiddles crew completely dried up, leaving all except Cyan Fiddles dead. The player gears up and enters the abandoned Banban's kindergarten, with the goal of finding and saving their child who was enrolled in the kindergarten and was in the building during Bring a Friend Day. Their child was one of the children that were kidnapped by Stinger Flynn during Bring a Friend Day. While venturing through the outer sector, they come across Opala Bird, who begins stalking them, similar to the behavior of a real predator. After entering the ball pit and completing the "What was my color?" puzzle, the players met with Opala Bird riding a chairlift towards the player. Upon Opala Bird reaching the player, she stalks them until she attempts to attack, but the player activates a bridge using the drone, allowing them to run away, causing Opala Bird to begin pursuit of the player. They then jump off the platform back onto solid ground and, just before Opala Bird can kill them, they activate the emergency stop, causing Opala Bird to fall down the collapsed ball pit, hitting her head on the way down. The player continues on, riding a secret worker lift down, but their ride is interrupted by Jumbo Josh, who climbs onto the lift, and because of his weight, it caused the lift to collapse and fall on top of himself, which knocks him out. The player wakes up laying on the worker lift, which is crushing a currently unconscious Jumbo Josh who has suffered injuries to his head and body, causing permanent marks on his body. The player proceeds out to the hub, where they then enter the communications sector, and hear Banban pretending to be a human security guard. He explains that he walked into the security office and the doors locked behind him. He asks for help getting out. He opens the break room and sends them to the maintenance room. In the maintenance room, Nab runs out of the darkness and begins pursuit of the player. The player manages to escape to the stairs, where Nab Nab, who's locked in tunnel vision, smashes into the wall, knocking him out. The player escapes the situation, rushing to the security office to let Banban, or whoever they think is the security guard, out. When they enter the room, no one is inside, and there is a note on the table. The note reads, "If you read this fast enough, you might be able to escape. But I'm going to hit you very, very hard." And before they are able to finish reading it, Banban strikes them in the back of their head, explaining that he has captured you to have the perfect surgical specimen as well as all their keycards. Banban then takes the unconscious body of the player to the medical sector where he presumably performs surgery on them. He then stitches the player back up and dumps their body in the storage room of the medical sector. Shortly after this, the player wakes up and proceeds to the medical sector where they extract the final amounts of Gavanium from Captain Fiddle's crew, ensuring that the Captain Fiddle's crew is dead forever. The player proceeds out of the medical sector where they see Zolophius rise from the abyss and that Jumbo Josh has woken up and dragged himself away. The player enters the testing sector where they run into Opala Bird, who has scars on her face. Banbalina shouts, "Quick in here!" walking back into the room she came from. The player runs over to Banbalina's classroom where she teaches. Somewhere in the facility an unknown being calls assembly just as the player enters the assembly room, and following the protocols of assembly the facility automatically shut the door behind them, locking the player in the middle of the most dangerous room inside of the facility. Banban rises up from an unknown area riding a worker lift behind a piece of reinforced glass. He tells the player that assembly has been called and all of the walkways open with all of the monsters converging upon the room. Jumbo Josh breaks through his door and Banbalina runs out of hers. The player follows the instructions of Banban and runs through Opala Bird's walkway, which she is not in because she is attending to her children. Running through it, Jumbo Josh and Banbalina chase the player, with Jumbo Josh breaking through doors and windows attempting to kill the player, but all of these attempts are in vain as the player reaches the end of the hallway, opening a door on the roof, tricking Banbalina into running under it, causing Jumbo Josh, who's just trying to take either one of them, to crush her into the floor and take her into the darkness as she screams. The player opens the door to the next room and rides a worker lift down to floor B2.
The player reaches the last functional level of the kindergarten before everything went wrong on Bring a Friend Day. Banban, who is happy to see the player, explains why he shouldn't help the player face to face, being that he is prone to violent instincts, referencing his hellish form, and says that he doesn't trust himself to not let himself accept his violent ways. Banban tells the player to talk to Stinger Flynn at the aquatic sector, but Stinger Flynn has more important things to deal with than reason with the player. He then puts the player into the Peach Dream. He tells the player that he needs the children to see the real outside world. After her procedure, Nabnalina is loose, and the player is given the spider assembly audio tape. Banban tells the player to return to the aquatic sector and play the audio tape on the lounge speaker. The player calls the assembly and the two spiders meet. After Banban says that he feels that they should have been mutants, he's cut off as Stinger Flynn comes from the abyss, knocking out Nab Nab and taking his body. And Nabnalina runs back to Nab Nab's room in a hurry as the door closes. Upon going to investigate Nab Nab's disappearance, the player is frozen by Stinger Flynn using his mind. He says that the player should have already left the kindergarten and puts them through the dessert dream. The player enters the dragon fight room and meets face-to-face with Tamataki and Shamataki. After following the instructions written on the walls, which explains how to fight off the two-headed dragon, the player collects 3 firework rockets, and each time they collect one they place it onto Shamataki's tongue. Each time they consume the firework rockets and they explode inside of the monster. And finally, after 3 rockets, the old mascot of the old kindergarten finally collapses. The player is able to obtain party hats from Mr. Kebab Man. Using Mr. Kebab Man, the player lures one of the Opila chicks into a frenzy, running away from the protection of Opila Bird and Tarta Bird, who are guarding the Opila chick. The player grabs the baby bird, causing Tarta Bird to jump down and begin chasing the player, but the player jumps onto Tarta Bird's back, taming the bird. Soon after, Opila bird jumps down as well, and the two enter the room in front of them with the player, placing the baby bird on Opila's back as Stinger Flynn rises from the abyss with a knocked out Banban in hand. He explains that Banban has somehow allowed Stinger Flynn to find out about very important information, and then using his powers he transforms Banban into his hellish form. From there, Banban gets up and begins chasing the player and the birds as the birds partake in a testing area that was meant to race Opila bird and Tarta bird, letting each one go forward and backward to allow the correct bird to enter the next door first. Eventually, they reach the monster fight. The event starts after the bird race ends with the player riding on Tarta bird's back into another section of the room with Opila bird and a baby Opila bird riding on her back, following not too far behind. Hellish Banban chases Tarta bird and the player into a room. Upon catching up, feral Banban tells the player, "You can run away, but the smell of your pancreas will always draw me to you." Before he can kill the player, Jumbo Josh unexpectedly stomps into the room, shaking the entire room with every step, getting Banban's attention. This distraction allows Tarta bird and the player, who are soon followed by Opila bird and her baby, to escape to a higher and safer area where they watch as the fight escalates. Jumbo Josh stomps closer and closer until Banban jumps onto him, where he begins punching Jumbo Josh over and over again. But Jumbo Josh is totally unfazed by this and just picks Banban off of him like a fly and throws him onto the floor before crushing him into the ground with his left hand. Before Jumbo Josh could use both of his hands to kill Banban, he is interrupted by Stinger Flynn. He pushes Jumbo Josh away before emerging from the darkness. He then orders Jumbo Josh to stop and goes in with his stinger, attempting to put Jumbo Josh into a dream state. But the Jumbo Josh immediately dodges Stinger Flynn before grabbing him. He then shows his true strength by throwing Stinger Flynn to the ground with all his strength, shaking the entire facility. The shaking causing Tarta bird to lose his balance and fall onto the concrete floor below. Horrified by this, Opila bird looks at the player, letting them know that she is entrusting them to take care of her child, before jumping down to save Tarta bird. The player and the Opila chick proceed to the next room, leaving
Listen up, criminal. That whole act of you being unconscious won't work on me. You're a prisoner now. You'll do what you're told without any questions. Understood? Now your first task is very simple. I will ask you yes or no questions, and you'll answer them using the buttons on your left and right. Facing forward, the button on your right is a yes, and the button on your left is a no. Question 1. Someone locked up all the criminals in the swamp on the level above. Was that you? Interesting. Huh. I wonder who did that. Moving on. Have you ever come in contact with the threat shown on the board? Really? I'm surprised you're still in one piece. Third question. Have you ever Fourth question. Have you ever come in contact with a threat shown on the board? I thought so. You must have come from the floors above. Fifth question. Have you ever come in contact with a threat shown on the board? Well, you better keep a wider eye on the ceiling. That one strikes from every angle. Sixth question. Have you ever come in contact with a threat shown on the board? I hope the rest of your answers were as truthful as this one. All right, grab your belongings from the back and step out of the room. What a waste of time. You don't even work here. What on earth are you doing this deep down anyway, partner? You know what? Follow me. We can talk more inside. It's not very safe out here. Careful here. It's not very sturdy. Welcome to the kingdom. It's not up to me to decide what to do with your partner. We need to talk to the queen. And when we do, show respect. Your Majesty, I've finished interrogating the new captive.
And how would you rate the fruitfulness of that interrogation, on a scale of 1 to 10?
0. They don't talk much, and I think they came from the surface.
The surface? That's a new one. Did they say what they're doing down here?
I'm afraid not. get your confusion, partner. I really do. What's a massive bipedal toad with a hat protecting a giant purple kangaroo queen for? After I was thrown down here by your kind like I was trash, I was hopeless, aimless, cold, and miles away from the promised surface. Long story short, I was found and accepted at my lowest. It was then that I declared myself the ultimate protector of the Queen. It's a cause worth fighting for. Good-hearted individuals deserve protection. We're here, partner. Let's get this over with. Be in the administration room, within the ventilation corridors. But it looks like the door's locked.
All aboard.
What's a massive... After I was thrown down here by your kind like I was trash, I was hopeless, aimless, cold, and miles away from the promised surface. Long story short, I was found and accepted at my lowest. It was then that I declared myself the ultimate protector of the Queen. It's a cause worth fighting for. Good-hearted individuals deserve protection. We're here, partner. Let's get this over with. The part we need should be in the administration room, within the ventilation corridors. But it looks like the door's locked. Oh, what? What's happening? You stay in there and don't move. I'll figure out a way to get the door open.
Hi, I'm a hungry snake. Do you have any food?
These toad stars never disappoint, partner. That, my friend, was the gesture I was talking about. Let's grab the part and get out of here. Wait, I know my enemies. We're being stalked. These vents are interconnected. They make perfect traps. I'm sure there's a way we can tell which ones are rigged. We just need to figure it out. That's the part we need from this section. Let's head back and see if it'll fit. Let's head for the elevator to see if the part fits. Perfect. That's 1 of 3. I'll stay here and put everything together. For now, maybe just hang around the place and talk to the queen when you're ready.
Welcome back. hope your journey was worth it, and the elevator a little more usable. I wanted to let you know how much I respect the things you are doing to get your child back. Putting your life on the line and fighting forces far more powerful than you like that is just admirable. As a token of my respect, please accept this blue keycard. While not much, it is what we consider a symbol of trust. I am proud to announce that you are officially a citizen of the kingdom. Feel free to stay as much as you like, even after you get your child back. The kingdom can now proudly announce that it has reached a population of 5. I say 5 because a friend of yours showed up while you were away. He was in a damaged state, so I told him to stay in the infirmary. He asked for you, so perhaps you could speak with him when you have time.
When the Queen mentioned having many visitors in one day, I knew it had to be you. Listen, whatever happened to me, whatever I tried doing to you, just know it wasn't actually me. I was forced to obey without much thought. I tried communicating with you from afar for a reason. Now you know the true reason why. Still, I want to make it up to you. The Queen filled me in on the situation with the elevator. I want to help with that, whatever that station is.